so cool to talk about this film. I loved every second of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Where did this start? How did you get this idea to do this film?
It was very simple. In the late 80s, I saw a documentary about John when he was 15 years old, and the BBC selected him because he had a form of Tourette's called coprolalia, and that means that he swore. And unfortunately, I think for most people, they assume that everyone who has Tourette's swears, but it's not the case. But I think the documentary filmmakers selected John because he had a very dramatic form of the condition. And I just thought it was the saddest, most tragic, but also kind of funny at times documentary that I'd ever seen. And I knew at the time it was really popular and successful. So a few years ago, when I was looking for my next project, I just went back and watched it and rewatched it. And I thought, I wonder if anyone's approached John about making a film, because I felt that those elements, the tragedy, the humour, the emotion, the story, and of course now, when I was thinking about it, he was in his 50s, he was like 53, so
really?
He'd been on his journey and he'd completed it. He'd been awarded an MBE, which is a very significant award from the Queen. And I contacted John. No one had made any approaches to him about making a film. So then I went to meet him, and then having met him, well, all of the possible elements that I thought might be in the story were absolutely there, and I thought, well, that's it. I'm just off. So I spent a lot of time with John then, just talking and talking, just recording, just soaking it all up, picking out all of the key moments of his life, and then ordering them and writing. And the script, I have to say, came quite easy. It wasn't like I was working on it for years. It was probably more like maybe about 3 months, I guess.
Wow.
Because it was the first film that first project I'd worked on, but it was a biopic.
Right.
And I found it really helpful to have met the real person who was able to talk to me about, his experiences. Whereas when I'd written projects before, they were a fiction, so you're just going to make them up, and sometimes that can take a lot longer.
Then how did you find your team? How did you find your star? Because, I also question how you feel jumping into this role and your research, I guess, to get into this role and to play him.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with John, and I read a lot. I read as much as I could.
Right.
And also spoke to as many people with Tourette's that I could. Tried to round out my understanding of Tourette's, and not fall into the traps that many people do of what we think it is,
right?
And the silent, the unknown tics that people don't see, versus the very overt ones that we've all seen versions of,
right?
So I wanted to just really stretch my understanding as much as I could to work on it.
And so then, was he your obvious choice? How did you find him, and how did that go?
The credit should really go to the casting director, whose job it is. A great casting director should make the director aware of people that they might not have seen as much as they should have done. I'm not the best person for watching everything that's out there, every movie, everything on TV.
Of course.
There's so much. I would rather spend my time sitting quietly, trying to come up with my own ideas and concentrate on my own work.
Of course.
But Lauren Evans from London was our casting director, and she said, I want you to look at this guy. So I think the first thing I saw was behind her eyes.
Wow.
And I don't know why, it just felt right. It's hard to explain. I'm a director who kind of bases everything on instinct. I try not to overthink everything and justify everything. I just have sometimes a good feeling about someone.
Right.
And you cannot look at behind her eyes and look at Robert Aramayo in that performance and say, oh, look at that, he'd be a great John. It's like, it's a completely different character in another world. But there was something there. And we met, did we meet on Zoom? On Zoom, first of all. And even more so then I felt good. And I literally went with my instinct. And I didn't interview, 50 actors or or do that way. Maybe I should have done. But I am so grateful that I just no. But if you look at it on paper, you would think that you should do. But it just felt absolutely right. And I hope Rob would say that I was very trusting of him and his preparation, because I kept saying to him, can I see a little bit of something, Rob? Maybe a little rehearsal or something. Yeah, definitely. Not yet. He said, give me a week or two. So, and then we got closer to the shoot. It was about 3 days before. I said, any chance of, just before a crew of 60 turn up and shoot for 6 weeks, spend all this money, any chance of saying, well, he says, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'm having a session with the voice coach and a little rehearsal thing, he said, and I'll set up a Zoom thing, and you can look at it on your phone and stuff. So I could hardly see anything, I could hardly hear anything. He was off camera, and then at the end I just thought, well, it's so late now, but, what am I going to do? So I said, yeah, it's brilliant, Rob, brilliant, yeah. Right, see you next week, and when we start shooting. But I thought,
that's amazing.
Rather that than say, I don't know, I can't see anything, I'm worried, I'm nervous.
Right.
So I just, it's going to be right. And it was extraordinary, and I cannot believe that I found an actor who was so committed, so dedicated, not only in researching John Davidson, but in spending so much time in making sure they understood Tourette's, which is probably one of the most complex conditions that there can be.
What was your experience going through the movie as John? Because, I mean, it's one thing to prepare, but it's another thing to actually be doing it day to day for 6 weeks. Did it change as you're doing it in your head, how you're approaching it, or was it always a consistent, like, oh no, I see this?
I think it's two things when I was working on the scene in this movie. The first one was, what does John want? How is he going to get it? What's the scene about? Why is the scene here? That's where I started. Answer those questions with the help of Kirk and stuff, and then just put John through that scenario.
Right.
And sometimes we would think, I know for sure we would think, because both me and Kirk would turn up and think, oh, this is what the scene's about. And then John, I honestly think John, then you'd put him in that scenario, and the scene would completely change. Yeah. I think that happened a few times.
Wow.
So sort of like, I think that was to both of us, just allowing it to. How does it feel today, and what is it? How has it changed, and is that okay?
Right.
So it was a very singular experience in that way.
Yeah, and also remembering that the nature of Tourette's is that it's so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing that's predictable about it is that it's unpredictable. So to turn up and just say, oh yeah, we know what we're doing, la la la, it didn't feel like the right approach on this occasion. It was like constantly talking. And also, one of the things I appreciated about Rob's performance was that he would, and he pointed this out very early on, he said, look, I've got to just, the takes have just got to come in when they come in. They cannot be, scripted. And you can't have a continuity saying, oh, Rob, sorry, you missed, you forgot to say the F word, just as you came in the door. That's impossible, because it takes away the edge and the spontaneity, unpredictable, of these kind of lightning strikes, which it is when these words just burst out of their mouth.
Well, I gotta ask, has anyone with Tourette's seen it now? Seen the film? Yeah, and what was the reaction like?
Thankfully, because we were very nervous, we were anxious, we always wanted to serve John and the community. Right. Thankfully, everyone who's seen it absolutely adores it. They've been very emotional. I saw a post the other day from a woman who had only seen the trailer. She hadn't seen the whole film. She was in floods of tears, saying, this is so important. I've lived with Tourette's since I was 10 years old. No one cares. No one has been interested. And this film is what we've always needed. And the Tourette's Association in the UK and Tourette Scotland, they've all seen it. And they've all admitted that they were anxious and they were nervous. Because
of course.
There have been many occasions in the past where people looked at Tourette's and thought, that's funny. Right. Stick a few people in, make them laugh.
Ideal place for comedy.
And they were nervous and anxious, even though we did our best to reassure them, even though they read the script. they still didn't know, but they felt that the tone, the level of education was absolutely extraordinary.
Well, thank you very much. I got to say that the library scene really, really got me. That was the moment that it was. Everything else is so emotional, but that scene is so beautifully well told. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're
Pleasure
welcome.
chatting.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.